Okay. Hi guys. My name is Yevgeny Shevchenko. I go by Johnny. But this is basically a talk about how to plan your EMOA rotations and how to do kind of fourth year in general. So that's my email at the bottom. Feel free to email anytime. Okay. So the major events in fourth year that you're going to come across is your step two. Primarily CK. CS is not as big of a deal. It's a pass-fail test. You're going to want to do your 2-3 away rotations early on in fourth year to get your slows, and kind of planning time to make sure that you do all your interviews is very important too. So ERAS opens up in September 15th. So I'm just going to make a quick point that it opens up September 15th, and you want to make sure that you try to submit it within that first day. You definitely don't want to rush it. If the first time you're opening it up is September 15th, then you're in big trouble because you're going to try to complete it, you're going to rush it, and you're going to make mistakes. And if you make a typo or any sort of mistake on your application and that gets caught, that can be very, very detrimental. You get access to ERAS, I think, early in June. If not late May. The school sends you an ERAS token. Open it up then, go through it. It takes 2-3 hours to fill out all your demographics and information. While you're doing that, you can look through all the schools or all the programs. I think there's 160 programs in EM now, and I'm going to talk about how many to apply roughly. But yeah, make sure you go through all of that in early June whenever the application opens up. You also want to start your personal statement. You can start now if you know that you're going to be doing EM, but definitely have it ready by June or so, because when you go on your away rotations, if you're going to talk to the PD or the clerkship director and you want to go through your application, having a personal statement is definitely good to have in hand. The next thing is the Dean's Letter. The Dean's Letter goes out October 1st, so that's when the program directors really start reviewing applications. Even though they have it for 2 weeks, most of them are not going to look at it because they don't find the reason to look at it once and then have to relook at it again once your Dean's Letter comes out. So you want to have 2 slows by October 1st, and preferably having step 2 CK. So it takes about 4 weeks to upload a slow, so that means you want to have be finished with your second away roughly by late August, early September, which I think is by period 2, maybe 3. I'll double check, but basically plan to finish your second away by late August, early September. So I'm just going to talk about step 2 CK. So the best time to take this is as soon as you finish third year. The problem is, should you take this test before your aways, after your aways, maybe a block in between. So I took my step 2 CK in period 12 because I had an elective block for that month. I had the family medicine and elective, so I took that period 12 off, and I did pretty good on it because third year was really fresh. I still had my UWorld account. I reset UWorld, and I got through it like that. Basically, if your second to last or your last rotation is the elective month, then definitely plan to take CK then, as that will probably be your best time to take it. So taking it in period 1 of fourth year before you go on any of your aways. I guess 220 is kind of the arbitrary number I took. This was from TCEP. They kind of defined that as a lower score. If you scored lower than 220, then I would take it in period 1, so you have a CK score by the time the program directors review your application October 1st. Taking it in period 2, the reason for this is because the away rotations, they may not time with your UTMB months or the UTMB weeks. So if you kind of have this weird 3 weeks off in between your first and second away, then you can use those 3 weeks to study for step 2, and 3 weeks is enough to study for this test. So you can take it in period 2, and then taking it in period 3 or 4 or later on is I guess if you did pretty well, roughly I would say better than 240. 240 is a pretty good score that kind of gets you in the door with any program. I don't think there's any program that has a cutoff score higher than that. Then you could take it later and like period 3 or 4, but I really wouldn't take it any later than that because your score is going to decline because you're going to forget a lot of stuff. So the earlier you take it, the better. But if you did fairly well, then you can take it maybe a little bit later. So how to study for step 2 CK. I think the studying for it is a lot easier, but the test itself I thought was harder. Really because the stems and the question stems are a lot longer, so it's a more kind of exhausting test. But really the way you approach it is you have a question bank and you have a study resource. So UWorld is obviously the best. Reset UWorld or buy a new subscription, and basically you have your 3-4 weeks, finish out the whole question banks, doing about 2 blocks a day. Is pretty good. If you just do that, that's enough to probably get a good score. I had a review source, so I used Step 2 Secrets, which I thought was pretty good. You can do Step Up to Step Up to Step 2. Do that one. Step Up to Medicine is too long. I would really stray away from that because you're gonna bog yourself down in extraneous details. And then First Aid, I don't think the book was too great for that. There's also these review videos by Online MedEd. He's really good to use throughout your 3rd year for all your rotations. But if you just want a quick algorithmic review of, and you like video-based stuff, then Online MedEd is the way to go. And then the UTESCA Emma Holiday's lectures, those are really good too. But like I said, the question bank is the most important. Step 2, CS. So the best time to take this is ideally in the last week of your family medicine rotation. If you took family medicine the second half of your 3rd year, if you took it the first half, then I wouldn't take it that early. But if it's in your second half, especially towards the end of 3rd year, that you should really take it then. I know it seems kind of early, but you're best prepared for it then. Otherwise, if you don't take it then, you should probably take it after your aways, but before your interview, so around October, November time. And you have to take the test by December 1st, as that's the UTMB deadline. To study for CS, it's not that difficult of a test. I haven't gotten my score back yet. I get it back February 3rd, but I didn't think it was too bad. Just reviewing First Aid CS and the parts, there's like 30 or 40 pages where it gives you chief complaint and it tells you the differential diagnosis per each chief complaint. Just going through those 30-40 pages I think is pretty good. I don't practice the cases. I didn't have anyone to do it with, so I just went through those. But it's honestly not the toughest part of 4th year. So the away rotations, this is kind of like the meat of the talk. This is going to be the most important part of your application, I think, for getting an interview, along with step scores, and then not having any red flags. A red flag is basically if you fail the class, if you've had several ECNs, anything that comes up on your dean's letter, like it's on the front page, where it's going to say a fail, some kind of behavioral thing. That is not good to have. But I mean, people have come back from those. So how many aways to do? I would say, you want to do at least 2, but I really push for 3. I did 3. So I did mine in Denver, which was in July. Then I did one in Chicago at Cook County in August, and then my last one in St. Luke's Roosevelt in September. So if you do 3, I think that's kind of easy to get your letters of recommendation. You just basically ask for 3 slows. You don't really need to go around your internal medicine faculty or your surgery faculty, bogging them down for letters of recommendation. You just go on your away rotations. The clerkship directors there expect you to get a slow, and at the end you just ask them to write you a slow. They all fill out the information and they have it in 3-4 weeks later, so it makes things really convenient. If you do 3 aways, it also gives you opportunity to kind of get your foot in the door with 3 programs, being that you do well. So I don't know. I think 3 is a good number to do it. You can do 2 general, like adult EM rotations. Your 3rd one, if you want it, you can make it a peds EM or ultrasound rotation if you want to. But you're just going to get probably a letter of recommendation. I don't think you can get a slow for doing one of those kind of electives. Also, if you do 3 EM away rotations, make sure that you can somehow prove getting them to count as an elective and a selective is very easy. Getting it to count as an AI, you have to maybe go on their website, or you have to call or email the coordinator and have her state that this is kind of an acting internship level or a sub-internship level to get credit for all 3. Because if you go and they just count as an elective, you're going to lose credit for one of them. you're probably, if you get lucky and the dates match up, then you can probably take 3 periods off to do 3 aways. But you may have to take 4. I had to take 4 because all of those aways were 1 week off from UTMB schedule. So where to do them? So I think if you do 3, I didn't do this, and I kind of regret not doing this. I wish I had. My kind of thought process is the first one you want to do in Texas, just to kind of establish your home base here, because you're a stronger applicant in Texas, given that you're coming from UTMB and you have ties here. The second one is you want to go to a region of the country that you want to be in or that you're interested in. So if you're interested in the Northeast, like New York or Philly, do a weight rotation in that area, preferably kind of close to where you really want to end up. And if you want to go to California, I think doing a rotation in California is a must. If you want to go up north, if you want to go to Florida, basically have a geographical tie to the region you want to be in for your second rotation. And then the third rotation should really be kind of like the dream school. If there's one program in particular that you kind of have your heart set on, that you feel, oh man, I've heard really good things about this program. Everyone, other residents have told me that it's a good program, and it's in the city that you want to be in, then that should be your third one, because by then you've done 2 rotations, you're probably at your strongest point, and you can probably make the best impression. For your first rotation, I would say do it in Corpus Christi. We've had really good feedback from that program in terms of the students that have gone in the last couple of years. They definitely let you do a lot. I think they prepare you pretty well for your second and third rotation, and I don't know. I really liked Corpus Christi on my interview. It's a really great program. Corpus Christi is, the city is kind of a drawback, but otherwise the program is really solid. So definitely, I would say go to that one in Texas, and then 2 and 3, as I stated before. So just to kind of make a note, my experience, I went to Denver first. And that was kind of the toughest of my 3. I thought they expected, the level of expectation was much higher over there than it was at Cook or St. Luke Roosevelt. And another thing, Denver doesn't really have geographical ties to any location. It's, 300-400 miles away from any other program. It's kind of out there on its own. So I went to Denver, and then I went to Chicago, and I finished my Chicago rotation by end of August. So my 2 slows came from Denver and Chicago. And that was my quote-unquote geographical tie in the north. And so when I applied, I wasn't getting any interviews from New York. Texas was kind of a little bit scratching. And then as soon as my New York letter came in, maybe it was the fact that it was my third one, but I got 2 or 3 interviews from New York, and then the Texas one started kind of pouring in. But basically, if you don't time it right, the geographical ties, that can kind of hurt you. If you do if you want to go to California and you do your California rotation in September or October, it might be too late to get interviews out there, because they're going to fill up with students who already have interviews, who did their away rotations earlier. But let's see, if I can go back, I probably would have done Corpus as my first one, would have done New York City, St. Luke Roosevelt as my second one, just to get that geographical tie, and then do Denver as my last away rotation. So how to do well on your rotations. I'm not going to go too much into this, because my grades, I got 2 passes and a high pass, so I don't think I'm like the expert on how to rock your away rotations. I think we're going to do a panel later on, hopefully in April or May, on how to do well in your away rotations. That way you kind of have it right before you go. It's more fresh. Also, go to TCEP, April, I think 21st to 24th. I got some really great advice from TCEP, because it's the program directors, the APDs, that give you how to do well. It's well worth your, I think, $50 or $55 to go. So kind of just on my ways, I got pretty good feedback, and my end of the day evaluations, I got pretty good scores. Where I messed up was they also have like a test at the end, and they have some kind of presentation, and I don't know, I guess I did okay on my test, but when everybody does really well, the margin between high pass, pass, and honors is very small. So if you don't kill it on your presentation, your final exam, it's you're probably going to end up with a pass despite how well you do on your evals. So really focus on those on your ways. The 2 things that I think is really good advice, and this is what you should do before you go on your aways, is you definitely want to shadow an emergency medicine doc. The ones here at UTMB are really good. Go email Shane LeGrand to set yourself up, but go in the weekends between the elective blocks. So period one ends Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. There are no students there. There's going to be a resident, but if you go there, you tell the faculty, hey, I'm interested in going into emergency medicine. Can I shadow you? All of the ones that I've been to, they're very eager to have me tag along, and they send me to go see patients. I present to them. They work through a differential with me. They explain a lot. They let me do a lot. Like I got to do an LP here. I got to intubate once. So it's well worth your time to see exactly how an ED setting is, because what you read in pretest or case files, that may not be exactly how it goes down. They talk about this 3-minute presentation that you have to master. I mean, it's a good read. You mean definitely read through it, but I never had 3 minutes to present any patient. It was more like 30 seconds, 60 seconds max. I mean, they tell you, and then if you're taking more than a minute, they get up, and they go see the patient with or without you. So you really kind of have to practice presenting, which is really where your evaluation comes from. So definitely shadow the ED docs. I would say if you want, starting in your 3rd year, but definitely start in the spring, and you wanna have maybe 5 or 6 times that you go before on your first away. The second thing is there's this EM Basic podcast. I think Steve Carell, Dr. Steve Carell does it. He's a San Antonio, I know, like the like the actor. No, this guy is he's a military physician from I think he trained in San Antonio. But he does these lectures. I think he has like 80 podcasts. The ones on chest pain, back pain, headache, abdominal pain, those are immensely good. Doing that and having that approach to chest pain when you present, I think saved my butt a lot of times. So if you want to listen to all of them, but those 5 or 6 are extremely good. So I would listen to those even before you go on your first kind of shadowing rotation here at the ED. They're about 10-20 minutes a piece, and they're definitely worth your time. So the applications and how many applications to send out. So September 15th is rolling around. I only have 2 slows in, and I know my grades were passes, so I start freaking out at this point, and because everyone's talking about how they got an honors, or they were disappointed they only got a high pass on their aways. So I'm thinking this is going to be bad. So I ended up just shotgunning the approach, and I applied to 85 programs, which cost me about $1,800. There's a total, I think, now of 160 programs, and if you apply to all of them, it's going to cost you around $3,000. So I got 18 interviews out of the 85. I ended up going on 12. But if you kind of map out my interviews, the majority of them are in Texas, Louisiana, Chicago, Detroit, and New York City. And if you look at where I did my aways, it pretty much correlates exactly to that. Looking back, I wish I had just applied to 30, because the first 30 you apply to, I think, is $350 something, and then each one after that is 26. So each one after 30 is gonna exponentially increase the amount that you pay. So 30 is kind of like the ideal number to apply to. But looking back, I really should have applied to Texas, Louisiana, New York, and then a couple programs up north, and I would have saved $1,500. Applying to kind of random programs, if you did your aways same like I did, applying to Florida or North Carolina or South Carolina, you're gonna apply there because you think, well, the more numbers I get out there, the better. It's really gonna be crickets, because if you have no tie with a program, they're less likely to pick you. They have enough of their own applicants kind of within that geographical area that they're going to select from their own pool. So just kind of, well, I'm going to send out 90, 100 program applications to programs. You're not really going to hear many more than if you apply to 30 within the geographical ties that you have. If we have some of the people in our program who, they scored 250s plus on their step scores. They had a lot of honors in their 3rd year clerkships and their pre-clinicals, a lot of kind of extracurricular. They're the, bordering AOA status students. Those kind of students, yeah, you can probably apply to random programs and get, and get interviews. But if you're an average applicant, it's I think you're just kind of wasting your money. On the contrary, if you're an applicant that's kind of a dangerous applicant, to where you're having red flags, you have pitfalls in your application, you didn't do the best on step, or maybe you failed step once and you retook it again, there you got to bite the bullet and you got to apply to all 160. It's better to spend the $3,000 than to lose a year because you didn't apply to enough programs. So definitely talk to an advisor about this, preferably an EM faculty. If you can, maybe schedule an appointment, or if you go to TCEP, talk to the program directors or the assistant program directors there. It's that information. It'll take you so much more farther than talking to an internist here, because if it's not an EM person, then you're not really getting good advice. If anybody calls it ER medicine, don't take their advice. Stop listening right there. But that's that. So interviews. Interviews start late October and last up until the end of January. Some go as far as early February, but the majority of them are period 6 and 13. So those, if you're going to take time off as vacation months, those are the months I would take off, which is roughly mid-November till early January. So I try to kind of do a what is this, a standard deviation curve. It looked very sloppy on PowerPoint, but that's me trying to plot out standard deviation curve, or roughly where my interviews were. So I had some that were in early November, I had some that were in early January, but the bulk of them were late November, early December. I would say out of the 12 that I went on, 9 or so of them were late November, early December. So period 5 and 6 is when to take off for vacation months. So period 1 through 4, as we talked about, those are kind of your away rotation times. Period 6 and 13, that's your interview time to take as vacation. So what do you take as period 5? I really recommend taking that BSHS elective or selective. One, it gives you something to talk about. If you do a research month, you're not going to publish. I mean, if you do, that's pretty amazing. But at least you get some research exposure. You can do, something of a project. So if you ever get asked, do you have any research experience or any interviews, you kind of have something to talk about. That BSHS selective is a very flexible month because a lot of it is kind of going on your own time. So if you do have early interviews, you can definitely take time off easily for those. And you can have time to study for CS, which isn't a big time commitment, but it's very convenient. So period 5, try to do your BSHS. So I'm just going to talk about my schedule, and this is kind of how I did things. So as I said, period 12 of third year, that was my elective vacation month for which I studied and took step 2 CK. Period 1 through 4 is when I took 4 blocks off to do 3 aways. I had 3 weeks off at the end, so I took EMS 2-week rotation at Maimonides, which was a really good rotation too. Period 5, I took my BSHS, and I took step 2 CS during then. I took the gross anatomy course, which you kind of basically do a dissection for a month. Period 6, I took vacation. Period 13, I initially had as a vacation, but I only ended up having like 1 interview that December. Most of mine, like I said, were kind of late November. So I just ended up signing up for this clinical ortho elective last minute, which was really good because New Year's and Christmas I pretty much had like a week and a half off, and just ortho is a pretty good rotation to have under your belt. Period 7, the one I'm on right now, I took the ACS requirement. I took an ophthalmology, which is really helpful, kind of getting your slit lamp exam down and your fundoscopic exam. Period 8, I have neuro. Period 9, I have an anesthesia AI. And then period 10, I'm taking a PEDS EM rotation in Austin. So that's how I kind of planned out my 4th year. The last slide here is there's this channel, Allium. I think it's Advanced Life in Emergency Medicine, interactive videos. That's the name of the YouTube channel, is Allium Interactive Videos. Basically, the link is in that right there in red. They have 5 to 6 videos out where it's program directors. It's led by a program director from Northwestern and I think UCLA, and they basically start you off from end of third year, how to plan, for your away rotations, how to do well, how to do a personal statement, how to do applications, how to interview, what happens if you match, what happens if you don't match. Basically, they have 5 or 6 hour-long discussions between program directors. Really, really good. Offer some good advice. You can speed them up to 1.5x to save yourself time, but they're definitely worth checking out before you start this whole fourth-year application process. So that's it. Thank you guys for listening.